want to talk about specific monsters, and one of the monsters I want to talk about are the Kuo Toa. Kuo Toa are one of those creatures that strike a perfect balance between being creepy and being funny. And so your players going against them are faced with the kind of body horror aspect of these slimy fish people that are, getting up close and personal with them and that live in these mildew covered, drippy caves. But also with just the laughable absurdity behind the lore of these characters that makes them so popular. I think a good way of determining like how well written a monster is in the monster manual in terms of its lore is to see how much you would how much as a DM you would want to change the lore behind those creatures to fit your own world. And I find myself doing that with a lot of monsters, unfortunately. But one of the ones I don't find myself doing that with is the Kuo Toa. I'm just going to read the lore behind the Kuo Toa here really quickly. Kuo Toa are degenerate fish-like humanoids. Pause. Already very evocative. Just the perfect burn if you ever want to call someone out. Degenerate fish-like humanoids that once inhabited the shores and islands of the surface world. Long ago, humans and their ilk drove the Kuo Toa underground, where they dwell in madness and everlasting night. Kuo Toa can no longer abide daylight. At the height of the Illithid Empire, the Mind Flayers captured Kuo Toa by the thousands and forced them into bondage. The Kuo Toa were simple creatures, never meant to endure the oppressive mental force of the Illithids and what they unleashed against them. By the time the Mind Flayers abandoned the Kuo Toa, the prolonged psychic subjugation they had endured had driven them mad. Their minds shattered beyond repair, the Kuo Toa adopted a religious fervor, inventing gods to protect them against threats. Pause. I also love that in their madness that their first instinct is to turn to gods. Most notable of these threats are the Drow, which have slain the Kuo Toa on sight since the days when the two races first met. I mean that kind of makes sense. The Drow live underground exclusively as well, but they're elves and they have a sense of aristocracy and refinement to them and their society. And of course, a Drow would look upon this creature that's shivering in the corner, babbling about mad, made-up gods, and want to kill them on sight. So unfortunately, the Kuo Toa have been the prey of the Drow for a while. The section called God Makers. Kuo Toa worship gods of their own insane creation. But if enough Kuo Toa believe that a god is real, the energy of their collective subconscious can cause that god to manifest as a physical entity. The form a Kuo Toa god takes depends on the inspiration for its divine image and is usually random or nonsensical. One of the most revered gods of the Kuo Toa is Blibdoolpoop, the Sea Mother, who takes the form of a female human with a crawfish head, crawfish's claws, and an articulated shell covering her shoulders. This goddess was likely invented by Kuo Toa that improved on a broken human statue by adding the limbs and head of a crustacean. In sudden awe of its own handiwork, it then named the resulting form a god. And as we saw before, as a bunch of Kuo Toa start believing in that god, they actually get manifested. So then an actual deity in the pantheon is this crazy crustacean goddess made up by Kuo Toa driven mad. Kuo Toa that cross paths with an aboleth often find themselves worshipping it as a god, their madness blinding them to the fact that the aboleth is merely using them for its own nefarious ends. Aboleths are awesome monsters to use. Maybe I'll do another video about them. Theocratic rulers. Kuo Toa archpriests are surrounded by fanatical devotees of their faith. The archpriest of a Kuo Toa domain demands that all of its subjects worship a specific god. An archpriest's mad belief is in its god. I apologize. An archpriest's mad belief in its god is so fervent that it manifests the powers of a high cleric. The archpriest can also bestow spells to devout underlings called whips. One or more of these whips are also the archpriest's children, and their primary role in Kuo Toan society is to fight to the death to claim the throne when the archpriest dies. Pause yet again. That is a detail I'd forgotten. And, oh man, alright, so picture this encounter, Dungeon Masters out there. The, party encounters the Kuo Toa archpriest, which challenges them and begins fighting them, while a bajillion Kuo Toa look on from, a lower ring or higher ring, somewhere that they're just watching in awe as their leader battles these interlopers. And then as soon as the party slays the archpriest, suddenly all these Kuo Toa whips begin infighting and fighting each other, and the whole scene just evolves into utter chaos. Would be a fun encounter. If a whip displeases the archpriest can strip it of its spellcasting ability, if not its life. And the archpriest's decrees are enforced by monitors, which are devout Kuo Toa that act as the archpriest's eyes and ears. Monitors are deadly hand-to-hand combatants, and lesser Kuo Toa live in fear of them. Alright, and the last section is Kuo Toan gear. Many weapons of the Kuo Toa are designed to capture rather than kill. Nets are common, though some carry pincer staffs, also called man-catchers, designed to trap and immobilize foes. Kuo Toa warriors also treat their shields with a sticky goo that catches incoming weapons. In general, Kuo Toa don't like the weight of armor on their slippery bodies and rely on their natural rubbery hides for protection. However, they like to wear jewelry made from the scavenged bones, shells, pearls, gems, and other carapace fragments on their person. So goes the Kuo Toa. Just an excellent monster. And also that last section really I zooms in on the point I made about they really stride that line of comedy or tragedy, right? Or rather, they're also creepy. Because it's creepy that they have these man catchers and that they try and catch prey alive and bring them back to their lair. It's very Lovecraftian, the way that they're designed to operate. But then there's that crazy, fun aspect of them worshiping some random, piece of junk that they dug out of the muck, and because their worshiping of it as a god has made it an actual god, you then could have some doll, right? Like some children's doll they find and begin worshiping, then becomes like a doll god. So I don't know. It's crazy. They're crazy. I guess the best way to describe them is cartoon Cthulhu. But boy, they're fun. The Kuo Toa. Hard name to say. Play them in your game anyway.